down, yelling out money, anything. Ayy, ooh, got the foot on the gas, pedal to the metal when I'm getting to the back. Ayy, got the foot on the gas, pedal to the metal when the lane moving fast. Ayy, ayy, let them all cross. If they hate, then let them hate and make a bigger boss. Ayy.
What is up, ladies and gentlemen? We are back. We are live. It is the Freight Coach Podcast, the top podcast in transportation, coming to you guys every single weekday, 8:30 a.m. Pacific, 10:30 Central, to break down some industry headlines. But most importantly, you guys provide some actual insight into what you can do with all of this information. If this is your first time tuning in, welcome. This is the real side of freight, ladies and gentlemen. And I do say that before every single show. And what I mean by that is I only speak with transportation professionals, because at the end of the day, you guys, I want to talk to the right individuals who have done what you're looking to do or who are currently doing what you're trying to achieve. So you can take this information, apply it, utilize it, and see a meaningful difference in your business and your life. Happy Wednesday, everybody. I just got a couple of quick announcements before I bring my guest up here. My team likes to remind me that I need to say this at the beginning of the show as well. If, and I know you will, but if you get value in what you hear here today and you're not subscribed, you guys, subscribe to the show. And if you're feeling really ambitious after this one, rank the show on iTunes and Spotify, because that's how we get out there and reach more people. And if you saw value, chances are your network's going to see it as well. And then also, you guys, our weekly newsletter dropped this morning. We changed the screen here. So if you go to thefreightcoach.com, it will auto prompt you to register for it. I will not sell out your email address to sign you up for a bunch of stuff, because I personally hate it when all of a sudden I get 37 new newsletters in my inbox and I'm like, where the hell did these come from? So I won't do it to you. So if you want to jump in on it, go to thefreightcoach.com. It'll auto prompt you to register. We talk about rates, fuel, in the industry, because frankly, that's all I know, you guys. I'm not a life coach at all. So with that being said, I got a very special guest for you guys. I'm really looking forward to this conversation today, because I feel like the timing of this conversation is impeccable, because I feel like what his business is involved in is ripe for change, especially with all the NMFC code changes that are coming up. I think it's going to kind of shake that landscape up a little bit here. So I have Mr. Grafton Elliot with Onward on the show today. Grafton, thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks for having me on, Chris. It's a pleasure. Excited to jump in.
I'm looking forward to this, man. And it's, we met in person out in San Antonio, and, we got, like you were saying, man, we got mutual friends, and it's learning more about your business, man. I'm really looking like this is, I think, really rolling out at the right time, because with a lot of the NMFC code changes that are coming through literally this weekend on the 19th, I think this is that thing that people have been looking for, of like, what's going to shake up the market. And again, I'm not saying people's transportation spends are going to be affected by this at all, but there's an opportunity that could happen. And then once they're looking at it, it's like, hey, if we have 6 pallets now, is it more cost effective to throw it on a box truck? Is it more cost effective to look at it in a different light than run it through LTL? Because I'm not privy to LTL pricing at all, but I know LTL generally charges what they charge. And I think any time that there's any change at all, I think that's going to open the door for people to at least explore other modes. But before we go down that rabbit hole, man, how did we get to the founding of Onward? What happened where you're like, I'm building this and we're running with it?
Love it. Yeah, no, excited to dive into that. It's definitely a good time to start moving some change around in this industry, especially in big and bulky and white glove. So, while we started, so I think I had a great opportunity at CDS Logistics. They're a company that I started my career with as an intern, and we were running. I had a really cool, really when it comes down to it, experience there. Where beginning of my career, they brought on a big piece of business, so I ran their. They had enough volume to justify opening up their own assets. So I ran their asset heavy division, where I would like go in, buy the warehouse, stripe the floor, hire everybody, run it for about a year, and then step out. So I got a good experience about running local operations. In the second half of my career, I ran their asset light division. So I would go in, instead of actually running the actual facility, the 4 walls owned by CDS, I would partner with a local agent that made the deliveries. So I got a really good early experience in my career of what it takes to be like a broker, and then what it takes to run a local operation, and saw like a massive disconnected market about how brokers were treating local agents, and wanted to build a company around exactly that, which is what we've done.
So why focus on the final mile piece of it? Like the bulky goods. Like why that and not kind of like take on that traditional, partial LTL multi-stop truckload space?
Great question. Was the hardest, right? So obviously, just want to
Yeah.
attack the hardest
Oh.
problem. No, I think in reality, like it was just because we saw so much fragmentation in the space and just how much fragmentation has impacted the big and bulky white glove industry over time. You mentioned at the beginning of the call, like in parcel, it's so easy to be able to like do multi-carrier routing where you can basically see what's the right carrier to do the delivery and then auto route it to that carrier to save money. But in the big and bulky industry, consistency is king. So what happens a lot of times is agents or brokers end up working with the same agent in every market every single time, regardless of the parameters. And that's what really causes this the bunch of the issues that happen in this market when it comes down to it. So it was really like we saw fragmentation, and we saw that fragmentation was creating a lot of empty capacity, where there
Mhm.
was like carriers that were like, "Over here, I deserve your capacity," but didn't have access to the jobs, and we wanted to bridge that gap for sure.
Yeah, I think that it's one of those, when it comes to final mile, lift gate, box truck, local white glove style stuff. I think like there's going to be, COVID springboarded that entire, like it was a thing, but I feel like COVID really pushed it to the next level out there. And I feel like consumer purchasing patterns have vastly shifted, right? Like it's honestly, Grafton, it's the Amazon effect. Why would I wait for anything when Amazon can get it to me within same day, right? Depending, like here in Phoenix, it's a major metropolitan area. You're going to be hard pressed to have to wait more than 12 hours to get something when you buy it on Amazon, depending on the time of day that you're buying it. And I
Yeah,
look at the same thing with home good purchases, those big and bulky that we're talking about, where it's like, why would I go into a furniture store when, I mean, I'm old school. I like to go sit on my couches before I buy them. But I know that there's people out there who are like, man, I just want to buy. I have a good enough idea. I'm going to order it online. I'm going to have it shipped to my house. I'm going to have it set up. And the hell, man, dude, there's companies out there now where, they come in, they take your old stuff right away, right? So it's like it's a whole new ecosystem that you might not get when you're buying directly from a big box retailer. They might deliver it to you, but you got to dispose of it on your own, right? So I feel like there's a
yeah.
major opportunity that we're here in, like, and we're in right now, and it seems like you guys are pretty much all over it.
Yeah, so you just nailed it, like, absolutely nailed it. So, like, the it's so interesting, like, we could talk about this for hours, right? It's just that, like, when you talk about Amazon effect, it's like 2 things, right? Visibility and then speed is really what
Mhm.
it comes down to for those 2 things, and naturally, the way that Amazon and Parcel has done that is owning the tech that actually physically makes the delivery itself, and it's very similar to, like, Uber. The
Mhm.
concept of what you could think Uber is like, if I'm booking getting a ride on Uber, the Uber driver is literally using the Uber app. So like
Yeah.
you know exactly where that driver is. They're ready to respond. Same thing for Amazon. They're all using the same technology. And the reason that that's the case is because in Parcel, there's enough density to justify assets where everybody owns the assets and the tech in every single market. And because just it's a massive market compared to big and bulky. It's 15x larger. So, but in big and bulky, there's not enough density for for someone to own an asset in every single market to deliver to 100% of the zip codes in the United States. So because of that, they're one level removed. They don't own the tech and the execution locally in every given state. Like say Siva or like XPO or RXO, they might own assets in 60% of the markets, but then 40% of the markets they're outsourcing to a local agent that's in that market because they don't have the volume to justify owning an asset in that market. That's really the root cause, is that there's this mix between asset light and asset heavy and big and bulky because the volume is so either so it fluctuates so much, or it's just so low that it doesn't actually make sense to own the assets and the tech. So that's
Mhm.
like the root cause of it all, is that the volume's lower and the volumes fluctuate. So this asset light, asset heavy equation has been the biggest thing to solve in our industry. And what we really have found is that what that's created is that if you're making a delivery in a market where you have an asset light carrier where you don't own the execution, they're not using the Uber app, right? They're using whatever app have
Yeah.
locally. So the whole opportunity in the market is to make it feel, even though that local carrier is using another technology, to make it feel like they're using your tech. It's like it's like Uber driver had their own app, and Uber had to integrate in that app and make it feel like they're using the Uber app. That's the opportunity in the industry right now, which is what we are directly solving for
So
sure.
walk me through this, man. Like, how does a transaction like this work? Like, how do I get on there? Whether I'm a shipper or a broker carrier, however this look, man. Walk us through kind of that life cycle of I'm going in, I'm putting in that order, and then from pickup to delivery.
Yeah, glad to. So we work with brokers, 3PLs, and forwarders. We really like our niche of working with them because it makes us neutral. Yeah, it's a very important concept, right?
Mhm.
You heard it with green screens. I know you've had them on the show. Like it's
Mhm.
just like the the ability for us to make sure we're not competitive to brokers and also non-competitive to the TMSs that the local carriers use is what makes our business really special. So how we work with brokers, every single broker that works with us either has a giant network of local agents they use
Yeah.
to make their big and bulky deliveries. Before us, they were forcing those local agents to use their system to update them when orders were received and scheduled and delivered and out on the road. But because of that, each local carrier was juggling 15 different systems from all their brokers to be able to give them updates back upstream. So what we allow our brokers to do is allow that local carrier to use one system to run their business, which is usually a local TMS like Dispatch Track, Fleet Enable, Pallet, like you name it. And then, but to the broker, it seems like they're using their system. So they're getting all the same data points back around resources, around scheduling, real-time tracking, item level detail, all this information. And what that does is allow the broker to provide a consistent brand experience, like I just mentioned, regardless if they are physically making the deliveries out of their own assets or if the agent is or if there's an outsourced agent making that physical delivery. So order comes in, from our brokers customers or the retailers or manufacturers, it hits their system. It tells our system that it's going to a market where that's an asset light carrier, hits our system, it goes directly to the local agent's TMS, and we listen for status updates back and send it back to our broker. So in essence, we are a middleware integration company, but the real special sauce of what we do is around using data that we get locally from these agents to actually help our brokers say make decisions on who is actually the right carrier to auto route their orders to because they've been sending to the same carrier in the one
Mhm.
market for the last 10 years. So sorry to make that a little long, but that's the whole
No,
picture.
no. I mean, I want that thoroughness to come along with it. So, like, what stops a shipper from signing up, becoming a user of Onward, and then just going direct to those local carriers that are in that market, right? Because if say they got a decent footprint out there, they're in. You guys are in a couple of bunch of states, but it's like say they match up with where you guys are at. And then can they go on there and then just send it out to kind of bid to that direct carrier, that direct provider that's in that local market, and then not even work with a broker at that point?
So no, so we tried to do that. That was like everybody in the last 5 years has thought they could replace brokers. Bunch of
Oh
stupid
yeah.
ideas. We were one of those stupid ideas. So we thought when we first started the business, we were like, we can build so much tech and so much data to not need the brokers to be in the equation.
Mhm.
But we quickly learned, a year into the business that brokers are absolutely necessary and big and bulky, and you can't cut out the brokers. So we made a pivot and I'll tell you why, but we made a pivot about 2.5 years ago where we strictly only work with brokers, forwarders, and 3PLs. And
Yeah.
it's for this reason is that we saw a couple companies that over the last 5 years that have tried to do that, right? Tried to cut out the brokers. And what happens is they might peel, but they'll to be able to replace the broker, they have to peel away business from the broker. And maybe there's a scenario where 30% of the time you actually don't need a broker. Maybe it's
Yeah.
like a gig economy driver picking it up from the store, or there's some omni-channel options. But then there's always going to be a scenario where you need a broker to facilitate either the line haul, the LTL, the final mile warehousing. So what a lot of these companies did is they said, okay, cool, I got the business from these retailers. Now I need to give these retailers a single source of truth to handle their entire supply chain. I need to go contract with all these brokers. And all the brokers were like, hey, you just stole a bunch of business away from me. Why would I integrate with you and give you all my data when you're essentially a competitor? So that's
Mhm.
been the big thing that we've learned in the market is that there's always going to be a need for a broker. brokers, especially in big and bulky, brokers have the experience of how orders are completed, what the SLAs, the SOPs, the right carriers to use, the price points. They have the density. There's always a need for a broker. So it's really our job to help build brokers' defensibility in market and give them this tech to be able to compete against these companies that are trying to cut out brokers.
Yeah, I want to just clip that out right there. Chris's back office team, clip that out. That brokers are always going to be needed. Grafton said it, not me. But no, man, I align with you, but I also look at it is like we're at a really interesting time from like a technology perspective where, I'm a capitalist at heart, right? Like I don't take offense to any business that comes into any space and says, we're going to come in and we're going to do this. I'm like, cool, man. Welcome to the show. Like, let's compete and let's see. Because if your product is really going to replace whatever it is you say that you're going to, time will tell. Customer feedback will tell, right? And then there's an opportunity, right? From a competition standpoint, I do not take offense to this, right? Anytime another company comes in and says, we're going to replace this, we're going to do that, I'm like, boom, welcome to the show. Let's see if it happens, right? You never know. But I like what you talked about there about like, hey, we realized that we were wrong and we made that necessary pivot. And what helped you in that decision, right? Because I feel like it's easy to sit in this controlled environment, Grafton. You're like, oh, we pivoted, we did this. But like, what was going through your mind at that moment, man? As a founder, as somebody who's like actually building a business here, because, people see Instagram entrepreneurs and they're like, oh, it's just so easy. You snap your fingers, you're a millionaire, you got a Lambo in South Beach. What was going through your head though, in that moment, man, of like, I think we made a mistake. We need to change course now.
Yeah, great question. So, and first, just to be clear, brokers are always necessary, especially in big and bulky white glove, right? Because there's a lot of nuance. I'm not gonna. Don't attach me to everything. But no. Great. It's an incredible question. So, it all comes down to really like gross margin, right? I think like that's what the answer is centralized around. So, and we saw that with Convoy and Flexport and some of the companies that have really struggled to do both the tech and the managed. So that's really what it all came down to. But I think what it really and just to make sure to provide detail on that is that like, if we're providing a marketplace concept where we use a bunch of data to say, hey, shipper, you should send your order to this carrier, and anything that happens in the middle that goes wrong, you have to deal with it directly with the carrier. It never works, right? You need to have a broker like team in the middle to handle the escalations and the claims and the damages. And so what we knew is that
everybody needs a bad guy to blame in the moment. So
exactly, you nailed it. So basically what we realized then was we can't successfully run a business where we are handling the escalations and also the tech. There's not enough money in the transaction for that. And why would we be the one handling the escalations when like there's literally brokers out there in the big and bulk industry? Like that's literally what they do well, is handle those escalations. So we knew that if we could slot away from being with the retailers underneath the brokers and really become that bridge between the brokers and their local agents, the brokers protect us from the escalations, from the claims, from all the liability, was really like the know-how. But I think the really like interesting realization at a point was like, I was basically like, what are we doing? I am building a technology in a niche that I don't really know, right? Like you look at my background, it's all brokerage, right? I was a network manager, was traveling, doing audits on local carriers. So it was kind of this realization that one, we could improve our gross margins and really become like a true technology company by going underneath the brokers, but then also the people that we would then be selling to and then working with on a daily basis would be my job title at my last company, right? So it was just more of like, it pulled us into a position where I was like calling people and be like, hey, I used to have your job. I used to deal with these things. This can help you fix those things. And it just really fit well when we made that pivot.
Yeah. No, I think that is a often overlooked part of when you're starting a business, right? Because it's like, I feel like there's a fallacy out there, Grafton, that you just have it all figured out because you started an LLC, you know what I mean? And, or, however you structure your business from a tax perspective. And it's one of those things that I feel like you have to start, right? And that's like paralysis analysis. That's where it gets most people is they're like, oh, I have to have the perfect idea. It's got to be flawless. We have to roll out. And then what you realize is, I mean, as Mike Tyson says, everybody's got a plan until they get punched in the face. And there, from there, that's when you're like, all right, now we got to make those changes. We got to make that necessary adjustment in that moment. And you'll never understand that until you actually start doing the work, right? And I feel like that's that big gap of emptiness that a lot of people don't actually want to invest in, because what you're ultimately admitting, and I've had to admit this too, hey, I'm wrong. We have to do this now. And that's a very tough pill to swallow with a lot of individuals out there. So kudos for you to actually come to that point, Grafton, to be like, hey, we got to change. We got to make that happen, because I know how hard that is, right? Like, you do a really good job of answering that question, Grafton, but I know what goes through my head when I'm like, fuck, I think I dropped the ball here, and it's always easier in these controlled environments to talk about it. But, it's one of those things, like, that's what you sign up for when you go out on your own, right? Like, you sign up for all of the other stuff, because, like, dude, I talk about this on the show often, man. The work to me is easy, right? Like, cold calling shippers, moving freight, I love that stuff, right? But the business side of stuff, man, all the unknown legal tax structure account, like, I'm like, fuck, man, like, that's the stuff that gets me the most at the end of the day. I'm like, man, I just want to go out and sell, dude. I want to sell, I want to make money, and I want to build a sick company. And then all I know is that in due time, as I grow and scale, I'm able to hire people to deal with all that shit. And then I can just really focus in on my sweet spot.
Yes, exactly. As long as you go a little bit further away from grassroots, as long as you build a business, then not to say that you never want to be involved, you always want to be involved in grassroots, but then it allows you to have the consistent release of stress that you're building something in the right direction. Yeah. No, well said. Oh man, we made a ton of mistakes.
Yeah. And
we made so many mistakes.
But dude, like, that's the best part of it, man, is it's like that is how you get better, and I just put a post out there this morning about this too, of like, everybody loves to throw the term relationship out, Grafton. Like, that's the knight in shining armor. That's the end all be all. Oh, relationship. Yeah. But to have a solid relationship, you're going to go through a lot of shit. You're going to go through a lot of ups and downs, because doing the job is on time. That's the expectation, right? Like, there's zero value add there. Yeah, it's good to do that, but you will always earn your keep when you go through stuff and you're like, hey, I was wrong, I did this, and how you handle those situations, man. So it's like, to me, that's like that's the most unspoken thing of it, because it's always easy to say, oh, we have to do this, we're perfect, we're that. It's like, no, well, how did you get to that point? Yeah. And then especially in an emerging vertical that is like the final mile and like the bulky space, right? Like, because I think like I was saying at the beginning of the show, this is ripe for change, right? And especially with where we're at. So I want to talk about this, about what the NMFC code changes that are coming. Are any of your guys as users? Like, if I was an LTL broker, like, I don't speak for my friend Gabe at Rocket Shipping, but I know that he does a lot of LTL. I would be salivating for this day to come in, to really come in and show my worth. So it's like, do you see that here? And, and then over the next couple of years, where it's like, there's going to be a shift of people who are going to be now looking at alternative methods for transportation for that big and bulky, or maybe that standard 6-8 pallet shipment that they might have been doing, LTL.
Yeah, you nailed it. Yeah, and Gabe's one of those guys, though. He's a partner of ours that had a lot of ups and downs, right? So we've proven our moments, like your post was this morning on, you prove your moments and the times are tough. So he's the guy, and he is positioned really well for what's about to happen, like, incredibly well. So, I think when it comes down to it, is like I said in the beginning of the show, everybody has had these siloed relationships throughout their lifespan, especially in big and bulky, where they always work with the same carriers in the same markets, covering the same zip codes. And the reason that's been the case for so many years is because it's really hard to just kind of like redirect volume based on zip code and kind of be an auto route orders in big and bulky, because you need that consistency to kind of learn the SOPs. But the big reason that it hasn't happened in the past is because you have to train each local carrier that you give the order to how to use your system. Where you're like, I'm AIT, I'm giving you an order. That means I need to train you how to use AIT system. But how the industry has changed over the last 3 years with the help of Gabe and companies like him that have been ahead of this curve, is that if you're integrated into that local system that the local carrier is using, you don't have to spend, which is 70% of your time, training them how to use the system. You can just give them the orders right in the system they already know how to use, and they use every single day, which allows you to actually be flexible in terms of where you ship your volume. So when you look at companies that are LTL providers and they're auto routing their orders based on performance, price, and speed, that's all great and all for LTL. But when you get to the local final mile agents standpoint, it's a little bit of a different criteria sets, right? Like when you're looking at final mile carriers, you need to know the zip codes they physically service and then how often they service those zip codes. Because if you ship it super fast, super low cost for LTL, but it gets to that local final mile terminal and then sits for 2 weeks, you screwed up the supply chain, right? So what we help companies like Rocket Shipping and ArcBest and our clients is that we're looking at that same data they look at to judge off of those 3 criteria, but on the final mile end, where we are saying, hey, we have surveyed the data from all the resource modules and these TMSs to say, hey, there's a carrier that is estimated to receive this order on Tuesday. They're going to go out there and deliver that order on Wednesday because they tell the system they're going to deliver it on Wednesday. And then you have to train them on the local system because they're already using it, which allows companies to be really flexible in terms of how they ship their volume. And that's going to help. It's a long way of answering your question. That's going to help people with these code changes, is that people that are ahead of the curve are able to say, I have 15 carrier options I can use locally. I can go B2C, B2B, B2C. I can get all these different models to be able to use to be able to ship product in a local market. And I have 15 different options that I can use to redirect volume and be ahead of these curves in terms of what's actually being used. Does it make sense to go B2C LTL? Does it make sense to go warehouse and delivery for box trucks? Does it make sense to ship LTL to a local warehouse to be picked up by a gig economy carrier like Bungie and Freight? There's all these different ways to make the supply chain work in big and bulky now, only over the last 3 years, and that's going to help these people because we've always been 5 years behind parcel. And this is it feels like over the last 3 years, we really have done a lot of good work to catch up.
Sure. I would agree, man. And, with a lot of that being said, what's one thing that you've learned in the freight ecosystem that you would like to see change, especially when it comes in regards to big and bulky and everything that you guys are handling?
Yeah, I think people need to start caring more about local agents, the people that actually do the actual work. And I think is really what needs to change. You traditionally shit always rolls downhill, right? So that's our biggest concept here is if I'm a broker and I work with 15 different retailers, I have 15 different price points, I have 15 different SLAs and SOPs. And then if I'm a carrier that works with 15 different brokers, and all of those 15 brokers will work with 15 different retailers, I'm dealing with a lot of different SOPs and SLAs and pricing structures and different expectations that I need to meet. And what people aren't focusing on right now is how hard of a job that is locally. And if there's a way to actually defragment the workflows, standardize the workflows to make the agent's life easier locally, it's going to lead to a ton of impact upstream, right? Prices will get better. Carriers will stop going out of business every single year. People will make a lot more money if the unit economics work locally. So that's really my I would say the learning is people have always looked at it from the sense of how do I take care of my customer instead of how do I take care of my carrier. And I think that's the shift that needs to happen in the industry for us to really improve.
Oh, I think that's a great point, man. Grafton, thank you so much for your time here today, dude. How does anybody reach out to you guys to find out more about what you have going on?
LinkedIn's always the easiest. Yeah, you can just just find me on LinkedIn, shoot me a message, I'll get back to you quickly, or you could shoot me an email directly, just grafton@onwarddelivery.com. And yeah, would love to talk to any brokers, 3PLs or forwarders that really are dealing with this problem right now where they're not getting really good order status updates back from their local agents because their agents are juggling 15 different systems to run their business. We think we can help you for sure.
Absolutely. Grafton, I love it, man. Thank you so much for joining me. If you guys cannot find Grafton out there at all, hit me up. I will gladly put you guys in contact with them. But that is going to be it for today, ladies and gentlemen. As always, if you got value in what you heard, subscribe to the show, you guys. And if you're feeling really ambitious after this one, which you should be, rank the show on iTunes and Spotify, because if you saw value, your network's going to see it as well. I appreciate you guys. I love you guys. And we'll be talking to you soon.
Came back with a bang, window down, yelling out money, anything. Ayy, ooh, got the foot on the gas, pedal to the metal when I'm getting to the